like having something like blasting all the time while you're doing things.
Would you like to say anything about the advanced work in terms of how it benefited you?
I would say that I've been told by you guys that I went through some of the other breathing exercises really fast. And I got to a point where I got really stuck. It's like it didn't matter what I did. I couldn't get past a certain point. It almost started annoying me. When I started the advanced work, I started to realize where the annoyance really came from. The annoyance came from myself. And it's not that I'm not exercising or doing the exercises hard enough or whatever. It had to do with my situation and how I see myself in the world and how I react to situations. And I've done a lot of work not to react in different work that I've done in my life, but I feel like this sort of put the nail on the head as far as controlling a reaction when it does come in and happen. And that has made an immense difference in how I do everything. It's how I can even go and exercise and how I can be in my partnership with my significant other, or how I can show up and be there for my clients. Because if you had a terrible thing happen, you got some horrible news, and you are all churned up with all these emotions and feelings and all this kind of stuff, that you have the ability to distance yourself from that and not dragging that into the next present moment you're in, and then show up and be 100% you for whoever you're seeing next. And what's really interesting, I was very stuck at a control pause of 45 seconds. And I'm very consistently now sitting at a control pause of 55. I mean, for the type of work that I do, I'm a body worker and I'm a trainer. And if I'm not aligned with my own brain and basically also getting a feel for what a person needs, then it's like just going through the motions. As soon as I start feeling, gosh, this is such work. Why is it so hard to work like this? Then I have to take a step back, check into my breath, ask myself a couple of questions, and realize I'm not the situation, and make sure that I can relax my belly enough and my diaphragm enough that, okay, now you can feel the flow happening.
If you take out the contradiction, then you can employ the mind to do what it's supposed to be doing in the moment. You're the one that employs the mind, and it's not nagging away in the background, or you're not paying attention to the nagging going on in the background.
And the nagging is exhausting. I mean, even think about how exhausting it is to nag another person. Now you're nagging yourself. When I spoke to Christopher the very first time about like this inner chatter that's going on, and asking yourself about what thought is it and who is this thought for and all that, I started realizing that there's a moment of silence. Like the mind doesn't know what to say for a second. And that was great. And that happened in one day. Then the next day, I started feeling a sensation of relaxation. So I felt my abdomen, my core got softer every time I would go through this asking myself a question. And then the third day, I started realizing how incessantly my brain is actually, and my mind is actually chattering in there. I became so aware of it that I go, is this what I've been listening to all this time? I couldn't, it was like, who listens to this? It's like having something like blasting all the time while you're doing things, and this is always going on. I even got to a point where I would stand in the kitchen and I would prep vegetables, and I would think, I'm just prepping vegetables. Let me cut that. Let me scrape this off. Let me wash this. And for about 10 seconds, you can be with that. And then all of a sudden, there's a judgment coming in saying, you should be thinking about more. And why aren't you thinking about more? You should be able to do more things at the same time. You have to be also thinking about what you're going to do next and what you're going to do tomorrow. And, you know, why did this person say this and this to you? And like, can you analyze that now for a second instead of peeling the potato? So it's a massive awareness to me. And it's an ongoing process. Now that you know all these things, it's stupid to stop. It enlightens you. Sometimes I go around and I go, gosh, I wish you could just learn the potato method. I think you'd be so much better. But it's really difficult. You have to come to the potato method wanting to do the potato method and being ready to do the potato method. As wonderful as it is, and as much as you want to shout it from the rooftops, it is not easy. Of all the things that I've done in my life, it's probably the hardest by far. It's having to stay with it all the time. The practice itself is pretty intense. You've got to be ready for it. But once you really get with the program, your life starts flowing easier. And therefore, in itself, it's not that hard anymore. Once you get through the really tough part of it, really getting through the process of pushing myself to being able to hold the pauses and being able to do that, you reap amazing benefits from that. To keep on going forward, how can it be any other way right now? And surrender to that moment and saying, this is exactly as it should be. And that in itself also calms you down. Calms down your breath, it calms down your belly, calms down your core.
It stops the conflict. And when there's conflict, then you breathe more and then you start dumping CO2 and then you get the adrenaline.
Exactly. And I'll say that there's a time and a place for adrenaline. You just don't want to have adrenaline when you're trying to be in a rest and digest state. There's a reason we have a sympathetic and a parasympathetic nervous system. But in order to stay in a parasympathetic nervous system, you actually have to help everything relax. If the breath starts racing or you start breathing a lot or whatever that might be, you will go right into a sympathetic system. Back in the day, you ran from a saber-toothed tiger, and then there was like a moment of adrenaline and all that kind of stuff, and then okay, I got away and everything is well with the world. These days, well, we're constantly bombarded with text messages and Facebook and social media and emails and so on and so forth, that it's very easy to really be chased by a saber-toothed tiger. It sort of comes at you at all these little tiny moments where you don't realize, hey, I'm popping into sympathetic moment all the time. I'm starting to produce adrenaline all the time. I'm starting to produce cortisol all the time. Being able to become aware that you're doing that, that's the practice. And then being able to direct yourself back to parasympathetic, rest and digest, very shallow breathing. And then being okay with the situation as it is. Okay, that email was distressing. Can I calm myself down? I can't deal with it right now. We'll deal with it in a little bit.
Give yourself some time to digest.
Exactly.
And then you can come to it and you can respond in a way that isn't in the sympathetic mode.
Exactly. Because you said digest, and it's so interesting because every time you have a sympathetic mode going on, you're producing hormones. So if you constantly have things being pushed out there and nothing to digest it, it collects. You can eat the greatest food in the world. You can eat perfectly. You can do the right exercise. You can get your 8 hours of sleep or however people think would be healthy. But if you're not practicing this mode of going in and out of parasympathetic, sympathetic mode, even the greatest food will not serve you. Because you can eat food and stay in a sympathetic mode and you will not be able to digest that properly because you're not creating a rest and digest moment for yourself. Digesting your hormones, digesting metabolic processes, and digesting your food. Diet itself improves. Doesn't really matter what you eat. Whatever you do eat, your body has the ability to pull from it what it actually needs because you're calm, because your belly is soft. It's not contracting over it. You can actually digest your food better and then feel better for that and have your food absorb. At the end of the day, you're only as good as the things you actually absorb. If you don't create a situation where you can absorb anything, how can you? It doesn't matter how organic or how perfect the carrot is and whatever you just ate.